Good evening, everyone. Well, my name is Swami Devaki, and I want to thank you all for that very warm reception. We've been rehearsing now for the past month, and very excited to show you this evening Swami's play. I want to just give a little background information about the play, which is that we did perform it about 10 years ago, a few months before Swami's passing. So we are very grateful for that opportunity. Those you'll see acting tonight are, many of them, this is their debut here on the stage. And they've done a wonderful job, I have to say. They really, really have. And we've had a lot of fun doing this, and I'm sure that'll show tonight. But just going to give you a little background of the story that you'll see, because it is in English, and I just want to make sure that the translation is clear, which is, it's a story about a man who, Yogananda actually, in case many of you don't know this, I'm sure most of you do, promised to come back after 200 years, after he left his body. And so this play takes place 200 years into the future from when Yogananda left his body. And it's about a man, he's a storyteller, and he had committed sins against the master. He had told slanderous lies and had really tried to destroy the master's work. And he promised and pledged, he actually asked God to never let him forget the sins, because he did remember, he did finally come to an inner understanding of his transgressions. And so he prayed to God, asking God to allow him to never forget what the transgressions that he had committed. And he spent his life wandering, telling stories about the master, trying to draw people to his work, to the master's work. And he comes across a band of truth seekers, and the story takes place in the Himalayas. And without further ado, that's all I'll say about it. It is The Jewel in the Lotus by Swami Kriyananda.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Rama Tama Krishna Tishna, all this chanting and caterwauling, it's enough to drive a person mad.
Ah, to be mad with God.
Yeah, mad, that's what I said. Mad, these people drive you. Come here, boy. Come, Kanta. It will soon be dark. And if we go any farther escaping those maniacs in the village, we'll only be risking our lives. Breaking trails where no civilized man ever trod before.
But dear, this is a well-trodden path. Our people often pass this way.
I spoke of civilized human beings. Would you call these villagers civilized when they can revel in such bedlam? Fine situation this, where virgin wilderness can seem almost tame by comparison to our so-called civilization.
They're singing to God, dear.
Well, if I were God, I would merely be annoyed if people spend so much time demanding my attention. Tell me, how would you have felt if Narayan here as a little boy pestered you night and day with his cries of Mama, Mama? Exasperated. Believe me, that's how God feels when people pester him with their howling. Oh, he's too clever to be taken into this Rama Rama business. He has got more important things to do than listen all this to these raucous cries of Rama Rama.
Like what, dear? Listening to you when you pray to him for money?
Well, what's wrong with that? At least it's a prayer with some sense to it. And besides, there is something in it for him too. He knows I donate money to the temple.
Yes, but you once
My hard-earned money, dear. My money.
told us you donated money so that the priest could ask God to make you even richer.
Well, they get their percentage. And mark my words, employing people is the best way to make honest men of them.
Your fellow merchants should derive great inspiration, dear, from your concern of other men's honesty.
No doubt, no doubt. And I set them a good example of honesty too. Within reasons, of course. You see, one has to be practical. But I can safely say that I am as honest as any merchant in this bazaar. And I work really hard to make this a decent world to live in.
Our own little corner of it, at least.
Well, why shouldn't God listen to my prayers? You want to know something? I'll bet he's grateful to me for all the money that I give him.
Father, he already has all that money you give him. How can donating it to the temple make him any richer?
Oh, don't be naive, boy. I am older and a great deal wiser than you. Believe me, temples won't exist if God didn't have a pretty sharp eye for profit. The divine merchant, that's how we the wise see him. Giving only as much as he gets. Oh, he's too clever to be taken into this Rama Rama business. Just look at it this way. What are these empty-handed devotees giving him in return of good solid value? Rama Tama, he is no fool. He respects a good deal, cash on the line.
Dearest, true devotees would never want to make deals with him.
Ha, the more fools they.
But the scripture says that.
Scriptures! Haven't you heard that even devil quotes the scriptures?
But the scripture says that all God wants from us is our love.
Dear, don't go subverting the values of a fine ancient family in front of our son. Why do you think I have brought him here? For the fun of it? Braving oncoming darkness and wild animals and maybe getting lost. For the fun of it? No! I have brought him here out of my love for him and to protect him from those madmen in the village on whom love for God seems to act as the rice wine acts on more sober persons.
I'm sure you have noblest of the motives, dear. But aren't you also just possibly afraid of losing a junior prospective partner in the business?
Well, that too. But of course that. How do you think Narayan can best please God? Obviously, by working, by leading a good, decent, respectable life, by working for me in my shop. Compare that to just running around foolishly singing Rama Tama Krishna Tishna.
Father, even you know that's not the chant.
Well, what of it? It's all the same. And besides, I need an accountant too. No, I mean it. An honest one. That fellow that I'm having in there is stealing me blind.
I thought you said employing a person was the way to make an honest man of him. But tell me, Father, how is taking a job in your shop going to help me do what I really want, which is to find God?
How is it going to help you? Did you hear him? He's asking how is it going to help him? Here I am preaching lofty truths to you. Ever since we have reached this God-forsaken wilderness, and you ask me how working for me in my shop is going to help you find God? It's perfectly obvious, my dear. Didn't you yourself say that God is the money that we spend? Now for that reason, the more we have of money, the more we have of God. Simple. We better keep an eye over him. He's getting some strange ideas.
But God is in everything, Father. Why limit him to money?
Why? Because the Bhagavad Gita says that God is especially manifested wherever there is greatest beauty. And what could be more beautiful than money? Oh, temple bells, the gold coins, that clinking sound always reminds me of temple bells.
Me, the most beautiful sound in the world is a group of devotees singing God's name.
Don't you think our boy might have worse notions than that, dear?
Oh, it's plain. I'm outnumbered. I think I should hire a bodyguard to protect myself from these unceasing aggressions. Look, boy, all I'm trying to do is ensure your future happiness. Don't you understand? The time to see God is when you are old, financially secure, and have nothing better to do. Otherwise, you'll be like just a wandering beggar, like that storyteller who has come lately to our village.
I have never seen him beg,
He is poor, take it from me. He must beg.
but he tells the most wonderful stories.
Especially from the lives of the saints.
Saints of all religions, not of one religion only. My favorite are those where he tells of the love of great souls for God.
Ah, what beautiful stories those are.
Oh, Father, why did we have to leave village tonight of all nights?
There is a special ceremony in the temple to commemorate the love expressed in all religions for God.
And we wanted to attend it.
What? And leave me at home to worry what might become of you? Oh, I know all about it. The ceremony hasn't gone exactly unadvertised. The singing and the wailing has been increasing for days. And what you call the love for God, the beauty of singing God's name. Tonight the singing has reached such a peak that it reminds me of a tribe of Shh, cats on a wall. And the party isn't even scheduled to start for another hour and a half. Oh, it's too much to expect from a sane man to be around when that kicks off.
Father, can't we just accept that we have a different taste?
Tastes! It's not a matter of tastes, it's a matter of principle. If I must be frank with you, boy, I'm afraid of that storyteller corrupting you. Oh, there is witchcraft in the air tonight. I even saw that old Gupta Sahib giving a paisa to a beggar. Oh, I didn't like it, I tell you. There is something very wrong. And I put the blame on that storyteller. Nothing's been the same ever since he arrived.
But dear, at least you can't accuse him of corrupting anyone.
Why not? When he sings and chants and talks so sweetly, our customers leave our shops. And why? Some weak-minded shopkeepers, they also go with them. Before you know, the whole village will disintegrate. Rama Tama Krishna Tishna. Ish! Cats on a wall.
Cats howling will always remind me of God. Thank you, Father.
Oh, in his gentle ways, he is as hard-headed as I am. But tell me, what if everyone starts following the storyteller?
I can think of worse possibilities.
Now dear, you know it's not likely. Besides, they say he likes to walk alone.
No doubt, leaving everything behind in shambles. Such people usually have to go out of the town fast and alone.
Not in shambles, Father.
Why not? When shops will be empty and villagers will be roaming in the streets singing like what? Like pack of wolves. And this latest craze that he has brought to the village, this Yogananda fever I call it.
Yogananda helped people to understand life's true goal, inner communion with God. In God, he said, saints of all religions are one.
The storyteller loves Yogananda for the great master's love for God. Is that so bad?
Bad? Can you, my own son, seriously ask me that question? Yogananda's whole life was based on a lie.
A lie?
Look at it this way. When you pay your good, honest, hard-earned money for something, you see at least what you're getting. A shirt maybe, a brass bucket. But this Yogananda claimed that God is even more real. Can you get this? Even more real than a shirt and a bucket. Now I ask you, what incredible nonsense. You can't even feel God. You can't see God. Tell me, what color is he? You see, it's all right that some of us talk about God vaguely, but I think Yogananda overdid it. He even put it in writing that everyone can see God. Now it is bad enough that some of our sadhus have said this quietly, but broadcasting this nonsense to the whole world, it's good enough to ruin India's good name.
The world has become more peaceful as a result of his teachings.
It's almost too late to find any flowers.
But we must find at least a few. How can we attend the ceremony empty-handed? The garland I made was so beautiful. If only our cow hadn't eaten it.
Bhagavad Gita says the Lord accepts even one flower, even a leaf, if it's offered with devotion.
Ramu, look who's here.
Ramesh Babu, Didi, what are you doing out in these woods? It'll soon be getting very dark.
Ramu, Gita, I have brought my family here to escape that singing, and here you bring it to us.
You can't be serious. This is such a joyous evening. It's the anniversary of Yogananda's Mahasamadhi, when he left this world.
Well, I thought that this evening is a sort of holiness inventory of All Saints.
It is for All Saints, but the inspiration for its devotion was Yogananda's. That's why we're celebrating it today. Yogananda said that in this world, all are equal. No one greater and no one any lesser.
He taught too that we must love the saints not for themselves but for their love for God. In this way, he said, we too may come to love God.
And have you heard? There's even a chance that Yogananda may have returned to this world.
What? On a spaceship?
No! Reincarnated in another body.
Is it possible?
Oh, may it be true.
Oh, this storyteller behind all this, I'll warrant it.
Indeed, yes. And he also told us that Yogananda promised that in his next life he would come back here and live in these very Himalayas.
To think of it! Maybe he is in this very portion of them. Or maybe even right up there, at the top of Lotus Mountain.
How my heart has grieved ever since the storyteller first told us about him, that we couldn't have lived 200 years ago when Yogananda lived. Our lives are so full of littleness. If only great saints lived amongst us. Yogananda promised to come back 200 years later. Did you know? The storyteller told us so.
Oh, infinite Lord, the songs that you sing, thrilling the night of Maya with your love. May these sweet sounds be heard in our souls. Let all the world stand still. Let not the wind, the rain, or the calling of birds invade our silence. May your songs possess our souls. May they steal like moonlight into the dark glades of our souls, bathing the restless shadows with your luminous peace.
Ramu, you are respected candy maker?
Candy? No candy can taste as sweet as the Lord's name. Now that I've learnt not only to sing it, but to hear it everywhere in all nature.
Oh, I must have a word with storyteller.
The temple bells. Only an hour left until the ceremony.
We must hurry or we won't find any flowers. God is my Father.
Peace be with my friends.
Peace also to you, friend.
Come back, Ramu. Friend, what are you doing up here? Aren't you leading the service in the temple tonight?
Not tonight, friend. You have priests to fulfill that function. I am not a pujari.
Ah, look, I found some. Storyteller.
He says he won't be joining us in the temple tonight.
But why not? It is because of you that we are having this service.
Because of me, perhaps, but not for me. It is for your inspiration that it is being held. I have done my share in leading you to that inspiration.
But can't you at least join us? It would mean so much to everyone here if you could.
God will be there, friend, in your chants, in your meditation. During your inner communion, I would be merely an intruder.
Intruder? But it is through you that we have learned to love God.
It is through you that we have learned to love all saints.
It is through you that we have learnt of Shri Paramhansa Yogananda.
It is through you that we have learned the very meaning of life.
I am as grateful for these blessings as you are, but of what use is a door once it has been passed through? My path lies in solitude. The time has come for me to take to that path once again.
You don't mean you're leaving us?
Didn't I tell you he's getting out before the roof collapses?
But how can we carry on if you leave us so soon?
The truth is in you, friend. Why seek it outside yourself? Even if you tried, you'd never find it there.
What you speak about the truth here being in Gita interests me. On the whole, I won't call you hopelessly wrong, but it reminds me of an absolute whopper. You see, it was in the school when she was in the history class that she was about to say,
Friend, the truth is in you too.
oh, please don't misunderstand. I mean, I do dress things up a little, you see, just to make them a little more presentable, but everybody knows that I am an honest man and we are friends here. Why exaggerate?
When I say the truth is in you, I mean you are the soul, the immortal Atman.
Just what do you mean by that?
I mean that God, the supreme truth, is in you.
Aha! Did you hear that, boy? From now on, you should better listen to me.
He means God is in everyone, Father, in everything.
But the Bhagavad Gita states that God is especially manifested wherever there is the greatest beauty.
You know, that's exactly what I was telling Narayan here. How like temple bells, I said, is the varied clinking of gold coins.
To me, God's beauty is most perfectly manifested in His saints.
Excuse me. Beauty, you said? Saints, you said? Am I right, sir? Did I misquote you? Now, there you have confused me a little bit, because beauty and saints are two words which you won't naturally pair together. Because the most of the saints that you see these days are so much covered by hair all around that you could hardly tell whether they are beautiful or not. And from what one can see, beauty isn't the first word that springs to the mind. Scarecrows is more like it.
It's clear you're yet to meet a real saint. But in any case, I was speaking more of spiritual beauty, of a radiance in the eyes, of a gentleness in the smile.
From the pictures of Sri Yogananda, I feel he is the most beautiful human being to have ever lived.
Outwardly as well as inwardly.
But why should we bother about such people? Yogananda is dead for last 200 years, and that illustrates the point. And most of the saints that we hear about are long gone. And even if they are alive and famous, they are so thickly swarmed in by crowds all over that one can hardly get close enough to them to get a decent blessing, let's say on an important cash sale day. No. I think running to the saints is just going away from your responsibility.
No. The scripture says that spending time with saints is man's first responsibility.
No, sister, your husband is right. Too many people run to the saints to excuse their own spiritual laziness.
He agrees with me.
At one time in the ashram of Paramhansa Yogananda, there lived a disciple who joked all the time, laughed, played pranks, and generally acted more childish than childlike. The master one day reprimanded him for being so light-minded. The disciple replied, "Master, I know my weakness and I want to overcome it. But how can I do so without your blessings?"
What a beautiful answer.
A true disciple.
The master replied, "But my blessings are there already. God's blessings are there. It is your blessings that are lacking." Faith, you see, must be consciously exercised. If it makes one passive, it isn't faith. It's only wishful thinking. The Christian Bible states that faith without works is dead. By works, it means the creative application of faith, both inwardly as well as outwardly.
Now, did you hear him, everyone? Now, you all think me so ignorant in spiritual matters. And here your own teacher agrees with me, not with you. How do you feel about that? You know, I keep telling them, God is everywhere. So why leave good, honest business to find him?
Some of Yogananda's most advanced disciples were successful businessmen. He taught that the power of concentration, so necessary for success in business, is important also for deep meditation.
Did you hear him, boy? You should better stick to me if you want to find God.
Well, however those disciples have found God, I'm sure it wasn't by meditating on money.
Why not? I keep telling him, God is in money too. He just doesn't understand.
God is everywhere. But we must first realize him before we can see him everywhere.
A mere quibble, I realize him in money.
We must first realize him in the self.
True. I realize within myself that what I like is money. Oh, this man speaks like the very angels.
But he hasn't said one should take a business to find God. He only told us whoever we are, God can come to us if we devote our present abilities to seeking him.
Well, one must expect some minor differences even among the wise. But in the main, we are agreed. This wise storyteller and I, we both say that God can be found in business. Now the method is secondary. Friend, why are you leaving this village at this late hour? Come, spend the night at our house. Leave by the daylight if you must. Otherwise, you may miss your path.
Thank you for your kindness, friend. But many long months I have walked these mountains alone. Their solitudes and their darknesses hold no more terrors for me. As for paths, I hold to none. What I am seeking must be found far from man-made trails.
But we know these paths at least. If what you're looking for is anywhere around here, perhaps we can help you find it.
Thank you, friend. But my quest is a private one. I must pursue it alone.
You have often spoken to us of going on alone. I too sometimes feel drawn to such a path. But yet in your talk in the village, you have also stressed a man's need for the company of saints. How is the value of solitude be reconciled with this need to depend on others?
A bedridden patient needs a doctor not for something else to depend on besides his bed, but because the doctor can help him get back on his own feet.
I see. Then the company of saints is helpful only until one has learned to walk alone?
Yes and no. The more you go within, the more you find their blessings inside yourself. Thus, you depend less and less on their outward company. Still, however, you keep their company always in your heart.
But which is more important, seeking the company of saints or the company of God?
Of God, surely. But please ask yourself, do you know God?
No.
How then can you keep his company? Don't you see? By concentrating on the saints who do know him, you attract their state of consciousness. Still, of course, it is God alone you should seek even in their company. To want anything less in their company is like digging for granite in a gold mine.
There is a point that sometimes puzzles me. God, they say, is everywhere. In that way, it seems we should seek him in every flower, every tree, in every wayside shrine, and yet they say God is one. From that standpoint, should we see only him and not love him through his manifestations? Which is the better path?
Both ways are good if it is the one God you are seeking. The most important thing for the devotee, however, is to be freed from delusion. And what is delusion if not attachment to that which is not? The Lord hides behind his creation. Nature is real in that it expresses him. Yet nature is our natural focus of awareness. It is easier to imagine God through the forms we know than to deny them altogether. Granting this fact, it is good to meditate on the lives of saints. They at least are more conscious of the dreamer than the inanimate objects. It is good to meditate on their lives, but it is better to follow the guidance of only one of them. That is why the scriptures stress on the need of a guru, a personal guide to the infinite.
So is that why you speak so much about Paramhansa Yogananda? I assume the saints all own stock in the same enterprise. Is it possible for any of them to corner the market? Is it?
Not this market. It is too big for any corner to hold it. Yet, I myself found the guide I was seeking in Sri Yogananda. I speak of him as one would refer to a mountain if he wanted to illustrate the principle of height. One needn't use many mountains to illustrate the same principle.
Yogananda was tall then, yeah?
Not physically, but spiritually speaking, he was a giant. Though I speak of him especially, I emphasize his teaching that other free souls, messengers from God into the dark prison of this world, have been fully as great as he. That is why this evening's celebration of his Mahasamadhi is dedicated to all saints. There is no rivalry in God. Yet I love Sri Yogananda. His life was such a perfect balance of mystical vision and practicality. And his message, more than that of most spiritual masters, was to the whole world. My love for him is far more than personal. To me, he epitomizes the greatness of all saints and the potential greatness of all men.
I'm finding a bit difficult to visualize a spiritual giant. Won't you please tell us a bit more about him by way of illustration?
Oh, please do.
But I may yet have far to walk this evening, and you all have a ceremony to go to. Just think of how many stories I have told you already.
But Romesh hasn't heard them.
And would it be fair to leave even one humble seeker uninstructed?
You know, Geeta is right. Humility is one quality I'm always very proud of. You know, whenever I see anybody poorer than myself, and by the way, that is everybody in the village, then I think for the grace of God and a little bit of skill on my part, go I. So we have something in common. Please stay a while, and that way I would like to understand the spiritual giant better because you deeply respect him.
Oh, please stay a while.
Very well then. I'll stay just a little bit longer. No time is wasted, certainly, that is spent in talking of Sri Yogananda. Brahmanandam Paramasukhadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Bhavatitam Tattvamasyadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalam Achalam Sarvade Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Triguna-rahitam Sadguru Tvam Namami. My Guru, bearing the bliss of Brahma, happiness supreme, wearing the image of wisdom beyond all qualities, free as the soaring sky, knower of all there is to be known, thou, perennial, taintless one, witness of all happenings, beyond all conceptions, boundaries, uncolored by good, bad, active qualities, my ever-awake preceptor, I bow to thee. People make a grave mistake when they think a guru as an ordinary man, wiser than they perhaps, but otherwise limited in time and space, even as they are. Indeed, they even err when they think him separate from themselves, for the true guru, having merged his consciousness in God, resides always in the devotees' hearts. He comes to this world not to show them how different he is from them, but to inspire them with a sense of their own divinity. The Guru plays a strangely dual role. On the one hand, he lives as a man among men, laughing, eating, joking with them, as well as teaching them, encouraging them, in other words, to see their humanity not as a barrier, but as a bridge to divine attainments. On the other hand, he carefully reminds his disciples, and more, so the more they advance spiritually, that neither he nor they are this physical body. Yogananda used often to say, I killed Yogananda long ago. No one dwells in this temple now but God. A disciple once praised him for his humility. How can there be humility, the master inquired, when there is no consciousness of ego? One of the saddest mistakes people make is to compare the saints in order to show their own patron saints or their gurus the greatest. What a travesty of the truth that all saints have proclaimed, that God is the sole reality. A master has merged his consciousness in that infinite realization. One should meditate on the lives of the masters not to increase their consciousness of sectarian differences, but to demolish them. In this way, I invite you to consider the life of Paramhansa Yogananda, truly a star of the first magnitude in the heavens of history.
Well, I always thought that these holy men always wanted everyone to know how especially holy they are. We as merchants have no objection in letting others, well, a few others know how rich we are.
To the saints, such considerations are meaningless. Long, in fact, before Sri Yogananda came into this world in that beloved form of his, he had attained final freedom from the meshes of ego. No karma of his own brought him back, but only the purest compassion for suffering humanity. He was what the scriptures call an avatar, a divine incarnation returning to earth, fulfilling an ancient promise to come, if need be, again and again, as long as one stray brother was left weeping by the wayside.
Such compassion is inconceivable.
Now I am beginning to understand what you meant by a spiritual giant.
Sri Yogananda played a more human role than most avatars. It was his task to awaken people in a culture where God communion had been all but forgotten. Seeing his life in retrospect, one is amazed at his accomplishment. He took mere spiritual children as it was and brought them all the way to divine maturity. No other master, to my knowledge, has worked so earnestly with so many different levels of disciples, nor brought so many in one lifetime to God. Many of his disciples reached liberation in that life, and many others, even among those who came to him after he had left this world, found God. To meditate on the episodes of his human life is to be inspired with the power that he radiated. To meditate on his childhood search for God is to be filled and inspired with intense devotion. To meditate on his adolescence years is to be inspired to renounce selfish ambition and to live only to serve God in all. To meditate on his early years of ministry in the West is to be filled with the great Guru's energy and joy. To meditate on his final years is to be filled with dispassion, compassion, and wisdom. Love and joy were the chief qualities he manifested in his life. Even his childhood pranks ring with the silent laughter of God.
Did he play pranks too?
Indeed he did. And why not? Is not God a God also of joy?
I wonder what he would have thought of my little Charu when he was young. He threw water from the roof on a pompous neighbor, the disgraceful child.
Sri Yogananda did much the same thing as a little boy, only it was dry cow dung on a drunken policeman.
So, you may have a saint in that delinquent monster of yours yet, but it pains me to remind you that your so-called pompous neighbor on that inauspicious occasion was my humble self.
I had completely forgotten. Oh, Romesh Babu, please forgive me.
All right, all right. I only hope that this saint of yours has some more sober moments too.
Even his childhood pranks often had a deeper purpose, often to send deep teachings in people who were hard-hearted or perhaps too sure of themselves.
Pompous?
But he never acted except with divine love, even when he reprimanded his disciples. How could he do otherwise when he saw all beings as his own self?
All beings, even animals?
Indeed, yes. Would you like to hear a story of how his love once conquered a wild and hungry tiger?
Yes.
Please tell us more.
Very well then. If I am to tell you a story, perhaps you'd gather round a bit closer to me.
Please.
Ramu, come, sit here.
Ramu, please talk this.
Narayan, let us all be comfortable.
How did he conquer the tiger? Was it with a magic mantra? I've heard great yogis possess such powers.
No, sister. His was the power of pure love. Once in the company of a group of youngsters, he hired a driver with a cart pulled by a pair of cows. At the driver's suggestion, they went deep into the heart of a nearby jungle. Unknown to the master, this part of the jungle was the haunt of large and ferocious tigers. As night was falling, they found an abandoned hut with a stall beside it. It seemed like a safe place to spend the night. Leaving the driver to put the cows away, Sri Yogananda ji and the boys entered the hut, and soon they were joined by the driver. Darkness crept deep in those jungle lanes, stealthily like a thief. The day, suddenly timid and afraid, fled for protection towards the vanished sun. The pleasant sounds and calls of sun-loving birds and beasts were soon replaced by the strange sounds of nocturnal creatures. And to these sounds soon were added the terrifying roars of tigers as they hungrily stalked the jungle byways. An hour passed, and suddenly the occupants of the hut heard a rustling and growling nearby. They looked out a window. The moonlight in the clearing was just bright enough for them to see a huge Royal Bengal tiger slowly approaching, its tail twitching with anticipation. The driver said, "The tiger is going after our cows," his teeth chattering with fear. Sri Yogananda said, "Didn't you close the stall door?" The poor man had forgotten. If the cows were killed, they might never get home again. Sri Yogananda asked if anybody was willing to accompany him to close the stall door. Well, you can imagine the general stampede to join him. Finding no volunteers, he went out alone into the darkness to close that stall door. For his protection, he took a lantern. However, the moment he stepped outside the hut, a gust of wind came and turned the candle off. The flame went away, and no time remained to relight it. Alone into the darkness, he went. The tiger, seeing this man step between it and the cows, shifted its concentration on Sri Yogananda. A cruel smile played on the killer's face. A hungry gleam shone in its eyes. Sri Yogananda looked at it. No thought of fear crossed his mind. Holding on to the thought of divine love in his heart, he realized it was God he was seeing in the form of that tiger. The killer slowly approached. The power of love flowed to it from the master's eyes. Suddenly, what a miracle! The beast, instead of springing, rolled affectionately at his feet. Love had conquered it. Its huge tongue lolled out as it yawned a few times. Then after some time it got up and peacefully walked back into the jungle. The stall door was closed. When Sri Yogananda returned, you may be sure he scolded the driver for bringing them to such a dangerous place. But cows and people, alike for the remainder of the night, spent all the time in uninterrupted peace.
I wish I could have even been that tiger just to have met Yogananda and felt that divine love flowing from his lotus eyes.
How much better to be a real tiger made by God that way than to be a human tiger preying viciously on the lives of others.
Such tigers must be much more difficult to transform.
And how much greater the miracle? Surely that does transform them. Sri Yogananda must have met and changed many such people.
Oh, many, many. Some even tried to harm him, but on them what a sweet revenge he had. Did I ever tell you the story of how a gunman was sent to kill him in New York?
No.
It was after a lecture at the Carnegie Hall, during the course of which he had exposed certain powerful, wealthy men who were exploiting the poor. America was in the depths of a depression. Exploitation of the poor meant virtually their ruin. Coming up behind the master in a darkened street, the gunman put a pistol in his back and said,
Why did you talk about those people like that?
All men are God's children. He loves them equally. How can you expect him to be pleased when his rich children take advantage of his poor ones?
can you imagine talking like that to somebody who has been paid to shoot you?
Why do you live the way you do? You aren't happy. It is time that you changed. I demand that Satan come out of you.
What are you doing to me? I was going to kill you. I can't. Just can't go back to that way of living.
His life was completely changed. Is it any wonder that the scriptures declare, Shannamapi sajana sangati rekha bhavati bhavarna vetarane nauka. One moment in the company of a saint will be your raft over the ocean of delusion.
How strange that anyone could wish to harm such a man of God.
But aren't good and evil always at war?
And whenever anyone is supremely good, the resistance of evil people is that much greater. Just look at the lives of all men and women of God.
How those who heard Sri Yogananda must have suffered, knowing that he loved them so deeply.
I know of at least one who did.
Pray tell us more.
He was one of the worst whose paths ever crossed that of the Blessed Master. He tried everything he could to interfere with the spread of the Guru's work. Like a tiger raging on the outskirts of a jungle village, he searched and prowled in search of human prey. Like the fire of cruelty in the yellow eyes of a wolf, there burned in his appeaseless heart the flames of envy and hatred. He told lies about the Master, spread false, slanderous tales about his work, tried as often as he could to turn people away from the path.
Yet you said he suffered. Why then did he continue to do those things?
Ah, my friend, the dewdrop, afraid of being drawn into the sun, slips trembling for shelter into the heart of a lotus. Even so, this man, afraid of the magnetic power of Sri Yogananda's love, sought shelter in hatred. His deeds bore ample testimony to the perfection of that hatred.
Yet the master loved him so deeply.
Just a few days before Sri Yogananda's passing from this world, he met this man once again. With the sweetest compassion in his eyes, he looked at his old offender, smiled gently, and said, "Remember, I will always love you." At last, at long last, what change was wrought at last by those few simple words. Breaking through at one point through the rock fortress of this soul's resistance, divine love soon destroyed every rampart. Years it had taken to resist. The defeat, however, when it started, required only a few days. Oh, dearest pain, blessed sorrow! What tears of repentance racked that conquered heart! That man, now transformed, prepared to go to him who he now considered his guru and cast himself at the Great One's feet. What high things he would do! What greater things he would do to correct past wrongs! How he would beg for forgiveness, knowing that he had it already, yet hardly daring to believe. It was as he was preparing to go to the Master that the news reached him. Sri Yogananda had just passed away from this world. Need I describe his sorrow and grief? With his heart so lately changed, but with never an opportunity to show its new character. That man, so lately evil, now made a sacred vow. As he had spread lies about the Master, so now he would spread truth. As he had worked to turn people away from the path, so now he would work hard to win them back to it. As he had thwarted every effort of his guru, so now he would spend every remaining minute of his life to fulfilling the mission that the guru had brought. For the remainder of his life, he worked humbly in obscurity through countless little ways, since he considered himself unworthy of doing great things.
What a beautiful story.
It would take a great love to win such a heart.
May divine love perfect the conquest of all hearts. For how many times have all of us offended God, whether through some selfish act, fleeting pride, anger, or even doubt? If only we could work as hard to set right our sins as that man did to right his.
You seem to have a clear understanding about that man's life and character.
Understanding is born of experience.
Yet I'm sure you have never been as evil as that man.
No? Maybe not in this life.
But can you remember the past? You're speaking in riddles.
One's past lives may not always be consciously remembered, but his experiences remain with him and throw light on the present. Thus, the past gives one his present level of understanding.
Then you don't really know if you were ever as evil as that man. Couldn't your understanding just as easily be rooted in compassion?
And whence comes compassion, think you? Let me finish that story I was telling you. Shortly before that reformed sinner passed away, he sat in meditation one day and prayed to God in the form of his guru. Master, he said, I know I am not worthy of salvation, nor even of your smallest grace. Yet I have this humble request to make of you, which you in your love may see perfect or fit to grant me. Grant me the power to never forget my countless wrongs against your sacred self. God usually hides our past lives from us, so we shan't be discouraged by past mistakes and failures. This man's past and prayer, however, was strangely granted. After death and in successive lives, he always remembered that one life of supreme injustice. Though it brought him pain, it also kept burning in his heart the constant resolution to serve his guru's work. And what joy has come in that service. I ought to know.
Are you saying that you...
That man was myself.
Yourself?
What a strange path you have walked. Led first by hatred, then by love. Would that all men could shun the hatred, but embrace as great a love?
It is darkness that lends attractiveness to light. It is often through the painful result of sin or ignorance that man grows to love virtue.
Friend, when you first came up here, you said you were seeking something. Won't you tell us what it is? Are you perhaps seeking him?
Oh, please tell us if you are. You have told us that he may be back. Have you any proof that he is?
Why else would you be wandering in these lonely mountains when your life clearly is dedicated to his service?
3 years ago, this very night of his Mahasamadhi, I was attending a ceremony in commemoration of that evening of Samadhi. The temple, lit only by dimly glowing candles, was vibrant with the joy of his spiritual presence. As I knelt to lay a flower before his image, I was overcome with the divine ecstasy. A wondrous vision shone before me. No image of my Guru stood there. Instead, I saw him. Master and disciples were seated on the ground. On all sides of them were steep, snow-covered slopes. They were chanting. Suddenly, he looked in my direction. The same smile of compassion softened his face that had touched it that day so many, many years ago. Come, he said to me, we are waiting for you. The vision began slowly to recede. I saw then the mountain on which those devotees of God were seated, and I knew that I should recognize it again. For 3 years now I have been searching. Nothing, not cold, nor rain, nor darkness has slowed my loving search.
And have you found any clue to his whereabouts?
None yet, but love shall lead me to my destination.
I wonder if we could help you. Could you not just tell us more about the mountain?
Who can describe a mountain?
I mean, if you could just describe a little bit more about it.
Perhaps I could. The top was broken into several small hillocks or peaks. In the center, there was a depression. The mountain top made me think, if of anything, of a flower, like an open flower, like the paintings one sees of a lotus.
A lotus,
Lotus Mountain! The very place we are standing upon!
This one? What makes you think so?
It's the shape of the mountain, the way you described it. Its top is very much the way you have described.
Ah, can it be?
It must be, surely. What more auspicious night for you to find it than this one? The very night of his Mahasamadhi.
What a beautiful ending to your arduous search.
I'm so deeply happy for you.
Love has guided us all. It has joined our path with yours. Otherwise, you might have walked on into the night and wandered yet for who knows how many months or years. And we, while living in the shadows of this very peak, might have never known that on the Lotus Mountain lives the jewel of our desires.
May you be right.
When day comes again, you will be able to say with certainty.
Oh, listen, the temple bells. Only 15 minutes left for the ceremony to begin. We better hurry or we'll be late.
I suppose we ought to go, but I am so reluctant to leave this spot where at least I feel closer to him who I would now accept with all my heart as my Guru. The flowers were picked to be laid before his mere image. How I would love to lay them before his living form.
It is late. At least the image is certainty. We better go.
Can we not convince you to come back with us for just one more night?
Thank you, friend. But solitude is my brother. Meet me, however, at dawn tomorrow. Tomorrow we shall see what promise this mountain holds. Tomorrow. Listen.
What is it? The bells, they've stopped ringing.
No, not the temple bells. Listen. Don't you hear voices singing? Way up there, high up there in the mountain.
I do hear voices.
So do I.
They are singing the same chant I heard in my meditation that night 3 years ago.
Yogananda is up there.
Oh, what shall we do now?
The flowers we picked were to be laid before his image, but They were for him. Let us go tonight.
Geeta, that way is dangerous even by daylight. Our people never go up there.
We have no reason to go. Our longing to see our Guru is our sufficient reason.
Then I know a part of the way even by night. The moon will take us part of the way, and our love will take us the rest of the way.
Our love will be a brighter lantern than the sun.
And God will give us all the strength we need.
Will you come with us, brother?
You see, my Guru Bhai, my brother, it's a very sudden change for me. I do believe in Yogananda now. I believe he's up there. I hardly know myself anymore. But please don't ask me to take a leap into an abyss. I may go up there later on when I grow accustomed to these changes. Tonight, I shall go to the temple. I confess I feel safer with the images. They may look at one reproachfully. At least they won't say anything.
Didi, you will stay with him then, I suppose.
I am his wife. We both go together. But perhaps in time we both can join you. In the meantime, what joy is my lot. I came here in bondage, afraid to do more than whisper my love for God. I live now with husband who loves God and who shares all my deepest dreams. What more could I ask of life?
Narayan,
All my life, Father, I have longed to find God. He can be in money too, as you say, but the storyteller tells us he can be found quickly through a guru. Would you mind terribly if you lost your prospective junior partner? I want to join them, Father. Life has no other meaning for me anymore. May I have your permission to go?
Go, son. Would that I were as free in my choices as you are. We must hurry. There is very less time now. The ceremony is just about to begin. Friend, how can I thank you? You have transformed my life. My heart was like a stone, and now it is like a flowing fountain. May peace be ever yours.
God is a father, mother, friend. May his love on all lives descend.
won't you come with us, friend?
Thank you, friend, but I would rather come alone.
But we know these parts better than you.
Love has guided me thus far. It will lead me to my destination.
Be it as you wish. But we'll meet again, my friend, at the Master's feet. God is...
Alone you came to me then. Alone I want to meet you now. My long exile has ended. You have called me to sit with those other blessed ones who love you. How can I express my gratitude? There are no angels singing from the clouds tonight, no galaxies of saints to brighten my private celebration. The words as plain and humble as it was this morning. But what angelic joy sings in my heart. Even the stars are dancing, and the trees, like saints, wave in blessing and nod with shining sympathy. My heart is too full. What words can it utter? Only silence can express the joy I feel.
Brother, the Master has sent for you. Please follow me.
I am coming. But what about those others who have gone seeking him?
They too will reach the Master tonight. But come, I know a shorter path. We'll reach him first.
I am coming. Oh, what shall I say when I meet my Guru? Oh, can my heart contain its joy? I shall look at him, this time with tears in my eyes, and I shall say, I love you always.
The joy of God which is given to one by the Guru, and O Guru, giver of this joy, I bow to you. The lotus on the water in a wind becomes very restless, and even so, the mind on the waters of this world is restless. But one moment in the company of a saint can be your raft over the ocean of delusion. So the words, one of the wonderful things about these Indian songs is the subtlety, the depth, the wonderful poetry of them.
Anandam Anandakaram Prasannam Jnana Swarupam Nijabodhi Rupam Anandam Anandakaram Prasannam Jnana Swarupam Nijabodhi Rupam Jogindra Midyam Bhavaroga Vaidyam Srimad Gurum Tvam Aham Namami Jogindra Midyam Bhavaroga Vaidyam Srimad Gurum Tvam Aham Namami Nalini Dalagata Jalamati Taralam Tadvat Jivanam Atishaya Chapalam Nalini Dalagata Jalamati Taralam Tadvat Jivanam Atishaya Chapalam Kannamapi Sajjana Sangati Reka Bhavati Bhavanavatarani Loka Kannamapi Sajjana Sangati Reka Bhavati Bhavanavatarani Loka Anandam Anandakaram Prasannam Jnana Swarupam Nijabodhi Rupam Anandam Anandakaram Prasannam Jnana Swarupam Nijabodhi Rupam Jogindra Midyam Bhavaroga Vaidyam Srimad Gurum Tvam Aham Namami Jogindra Midyam Bhavaroga